Hello and welcome everyone. It's another episode of the Coach's Box. We are really thrilled to have Matty Abel on here today. Thanks for being on here, Matt. Matty, I know you're a very talented athlete and you're a coach and you help people do exceptional, amazing, extraordinary feats. But I know you've also just recently done a sub 3 hour marathon. So anyone in the marathon world will fully respect that's a huge feat. Yeah. So you're not only helping people, but you walk the talk too. I know I can say a lot to you, Matty, but I'll let you introduce yourself. I'd love to know more about how you got into this as an athlete, as a coach. What was your driver?
Yeah, so hi everyone, my name is Matty. I'm based in Sydney and I've been a running coach for just over 10 years. Initially I started in the PT world and owned a gym which focused on weight loss, and when I sold that gym I moved into the running space, which back in 2012 was quite niche sport, being running, especially trail running, and I dove straight into it. I absolutely loved being out in the bush, and part of my upbringing was running was a part of what I did as a cross training, and where I lived, we lived on the back of a bush, so I did a lot of bush running back then. That really took off in early 2011, 2012, where I started getting into the running industry, and for me, I wanted to kind of leverage into that professional side of running initially to create a name for myself, create a brand that I could, like you mentioned, walk the talk. And I spent a good couple of years traveling the world racing in trail running. I was fortunate enough to race all through Europe, America, Asia, New Zealand, and doing the Skyrunning World Championships in Spain was a key highlight. But then I've also done a lot of multi-day 250k style events, which gives me a good kind of spectrum. I love running both on the road and on the trail. Yeah, over the years that just created my name, and then I wanted to leverage more of my coaching background and helping people achieve these crazy goals that just seem to be getting more crazy and crazy as the days go on. So yeah, that's a little bit about me. I've been really focusing in on I do just only online coaching now. That enables me to coach people all around the world. I've got clients in Dubai, in Europe, in America, Singapore, in New Zealand and Australia. So that just helps me coach people do some great things, and it's an amazing job. I get to help people live a healthier lifestyle. They're happier, they're more successful, generally speaking. They're challenging themselves and getting themselves out of their comfort zone. So yeah, it's really rewarding, and I've kind of niched myself over the last couple of years in helping people do these crazy expeditions like Pete's doing, 1400 Ks over 25 days across Thailand. I just recently coached Ned Brockman to do 1,000 miles on the track. Helped him previously running across Australia. I've got a client in 2 weeks' time running fast packing the length of New Zealand, and then next year I've got another client preparing to do the Pacific Coast Trail, which is the PCT from Mexico up to Canada. So yeah, it's a real niche, sector of running, but it's one that really excites me because it's such a huge challenge. So a lot of it is physical, but a big part of that is mental as well. So preparing them for those mental challenges. But you can break that right down into the smaller scale things. You're going to have mental challenges in ultramarathon. Okay, a lot of my clients really hate me when I put in like a hard 5k because they find that more mentally challenging than a full race. But yeah, that's a little bit about me on the coaching front. And then, like you said, I like to go through the process of what a client is going to go through. So recently did the Sydney Marathon, which was great. And then next week I'm actually running Kosciuszko 100. So I haven't done 100k for 8 years now. And the big thing for me for this race was I wanted to go through the process a client's going through to know what it feels like. It's been some time. I'm a lot busier now than when I was doing it back then, which was semi-professionally. And busy lifestyle, get the training in, see if that still is what I believe is the best route to, or the best way to the race, and see if I could change anything. And then also, yeah, go through the experience of what a client's going to go through during 100 kilometers, because I've done probably the 65Ks, the longest one I've done in 8 years. So this will be a good challenge just to mentally know and physically know what it's like to go through that kind of distance that a client will go through. So yeah, I like to walk the talk. But it just helps me with coaching. I understand, I know what it feels like. Last week I was like, I'm so tired, and like we're in this peak phase of training where you've got this acute fatigue level, and just to know what a client's going to feel like, and then how I can help coach them through that last little bit where as soon as we get over that week, it starts to get better. We start to taper, freshen up, and then get excited about the race. Yeah, a little bit of that.
Yeah.
That was a long answer.
That's a great answer though, and you covered so much there, and I think it really puts it in perspective how much you do walk the talk, how much experience you have in the area of running, ultra distance running, putting yourself into uncomfortable situations to help yourself, but also help the people you coach. And I'm a big believer in that. I think you need to have some background, you need to have some experience to be able to actually sit with these people in those really hard times, because you know what it's like and you know how to help yourself, you know how to help other people too. So I guess like my question there is, do you also self coach yourself through those tough times? Because I know you're a great coach, and I know Pete has said he really has come such a far way working with you. I'd imagine, you'd make such a difference for these athletes. What do you do for yourself, knowing all the information and coaching other crazies like yourself and Ned and Pete and all the other amazing athletes? Yeah, how do you help yourself through that?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I haven't had a coach for a number of years now, purely because I want to go through like my philosophies like a client would go through, and see if there's any changes that I would. Just like anywhere in life, in business, whatever it's doing, it's always good to have a second pair of eyes, a second opinion, because you'll definitely learn something along the way. So there's times where I do have a coach, and that really helps me, understand what it's like to be on the client side of things. And I definitely learn from other coaches, but I haven't had one for a couple of years now. I'm a very, I guess, self-motivated person, but I do fall in the category of do as I say, not as I do. Like, I make the mistakes. But I need a coach to stop me doing, I say, just dumb shit, which is basically what my role is for a lot of my clients, is stopping them from doing stuff they shouldn't do. So it's definitely worth having a coach, and they keep you, you can bounce ideas off, you can get that support, that feedback, and it's really important for me as a coach to understand what it feels like to be on the other side, and how I can really improve my services through that way. Yeah, I haven't had one for a while. I had a strength coach late last year just to learn. My background as well is strength and conditioning, and I'm very passionate about strength and conditioning for runners. So I spent a bit of time last year with a strength coach just to learn more. Yeah, I could grow more in that space as a coach. Yeah.
Does that make you more selective in who you kind of take on as your client, Matty? I can see the passion when you're talking about these amazing feats people do, and you specialize in S&C and coaching. It doesn't sound like you have heaps of time on your side. Yeah. Like, who's your ideal sort of client?
Yeah, so definitely I'm at a position now, and I'm very grateful to be in this position where I can be selective. It's very hard, I'm just one person, and a lot of people kind of want my services. So I'm looking at alternative ways where I can create programs towards certain events where they might not need that, that full service that I offer. Group training towards like the Sydney Hocker Half or the Sydney Marathon, stuff like that, where we can grow as a group. But a lot of these bigger events need time and effort into it. So yeah, there's a lot that goes into picking these events or doing training for these events. And I also got to be a bit mindful this year. I probably took on too many big events where it's a lot of time and energy to do that. So yeah, I'm very selective, and I'll go through a bit of a process with someone who's doing a big multi-day expedition, like I'm talking 10 plus days, because we've got a gel as a coach-client relationship. We've got to spend a lot of time together. We've got to grow together. They got to, believe in what I'm doing and follow the process. But on top of that, I'm a bit selective of how many I'm taking on each year now because it's a lot of energy and time.
I can imagine. Yeah, there's so many processes involved. I am really interested. Say someone like Peter Baines coming to you saying he wants to do 1,400 kilometers over like 26 days in Thailand, covering such a huge amount of space. Someone like Ned Brockman saying I want to do 1,000 miles or around the track. And XYZ, all these amazing athletes. Like, does anything shock you anymore? What's your initial reaction to these people? Like, it's hectic, isn't it?
It doesn't. I guess I'm kind of like desensitized to it now. Like it's like my normal is just so high. When I talk to people about what these people are doing, they're like, that is like insane. I'm like, it just feels normal to me. So yeah, I'm very I guess you could say desensitized to what these people are doing. It's just for me trying to understand why they're doing it, especially when you're talking 1,400 Ks over 25, 26 days across Thailand. That's like, it's crazy. You've got so much to deal with, from heat to just accumulation of fatigue, being in a third world country, all that sort of jazz that you got to deal with. So your why needs to be really strong, because by the time you get to day 3 to day 5, if you're not doing it for the right reason, option to go into comfort zone, pull out, say, I've got an injury, or just not finish it. The excuses can just come really, really easy. So making sure that a client has a really strong why is super important to me. So yeah, I really try and dig into that, why they're doing it. And then we've obviously got a time frame of how that's going to be achievable. So we need quite a long lead in time to get the body nice and resilient and strong. But yeah, it's very definitely desensitized to it. And they seem to be getting longer and longer and really testing my abilities. I've had a very high success rate so far. So the ones that are starting to come longer and longer, you're going to really test me now. I think if we can uncover those things early, especially around the mental side of things on why someone's doing it, they're going to have a high chance of success. And then we just got to sprinkle some magic dust, I call it, and pull out some strings to get that client into a good position.
Yeah.
And that's working, mate. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. After doing all that hard work with you, and they're out there on their own, and that's all they can kind of draw on, isn't it? Like how they push themselves through those moments and get through those tough times. But yeah, how would you start, say, with Peter, and he, initially told you about this huge mammoth challenge he's taking on. How did you even start preparing him for that? If we're talking physically to begin with, like what does that look like?
Yes, Pete's actually a pretty unique client of mine. He's a lot older, in a lot older demographic. A lot of the people that are doing this are in their 20s to 30s, generally speaking. So Pete's a lot older, so we have to take that into consideration. Pete's coming to me with a wealth, or like he's got a training history. He's done a lot of running, cycling, multi-day cycling events that he does over in Thailand. So Pete's got a pretty good fitness background. Pete's also got a really good mental background as well, from what he does in his previous line of work and what he does now in terms of leadership and speaking. So what he lacks in youth, he gains in experience and age. So we can really lean on that. So Pete's come to me. A big thing for me is just trying to get his strength capacity up as much as possible. Over 26 days, you're going to get fitter as the days go on, but the body's going to progressively, break down. It's insane to be running these types of distances, especially on hard road. So my role is we've got to get his fitness up. We've done a few little simulations over in Thailand just to suss out a few things on how the body's going to react and the course itself. But the goal is to get him as strong as possible. So we don't break down on day 4. We start breaking down a little bit later. So yeah, that's probably my first goal. But the challenge there with Pete is he travels a lot with his job. He's, this week he's in Canberra, then he's in Brisbane, then he's like up in the farm, and then he's over in Thailand. His schedule is chaotic, and it doesn't give good consistency. And when it comes to running and anything in the physical world, anything in life, consistency is the key to getting good results. And we really struggle to get good consistency out on a week-to-week basis. So we've had to kind of mold and change and work together really well. Make sure we're getting the best results and getting Pete strong, building his volume. He doesn't live in an ideal world for training, but we've got him in the best position possible.
Sounds like you've had to be very adaptable,
Yeah.
For sure. The start line is very, very near. How's he looking? How's he going? How's he physically, metrics wise going at the moment?
So we had a call before. We've had a couple of calls over the last couple of weeks. Pete was over in Thailand last week and actually got an infection in his leg. He cut his leg and got an infection. He's been in hospital. So we've done no training for the last 2 weeks. So not the best prep possible. So he's actually now trying to recover as quickly as possible. We did some cycling early in the week because he was able to do that. We tried to run on, I think it was Wednesday, maybe Tuesday, but it opened the cut again. We've stopped running now. The next 10 days for us is really crucial to let that infection settle down, let it heal as much as possible so it doesn't interrupt the run. Now, I'm not too worried about this. It's just kind of forced. I told Pete this is a blessing in disguise because Pete is such a go guy. He's got the busiest schedule, and it's actually forced him to stop, which I've told Pete is this has forced you to stop. We've rested, we've recovered. I believe this was the universe kind of saying that, Pete, you need to stop because we're going to have a huge 26 days and we just need to focus on getting everything in, all our ducks in a row now, resting and sleeping as much as possible, letting the body heal so we can perform really good. So it's not ideal, but, I think it's going to help him dramatically. And now, the biggest thing is we had a call today on how we're gonna structure the first couple of days because we're going from no running to quite a bit of running up to about 50k a day. So we're going to take those first couple of days a little bit easier, include a few more walking breaks than usual, just so we can mitigate that increase of load going from what's going to be next to no training up to quite a bit. But I'm confident. Yeah.
And I think, honestly, when a coach has that full confidence in you, it can take you a long way in terms of your own self-belief too.
Definitely.
Just knowing you can do that. From your experience doing big ultras yourself and working with people who do the back-to-back events, what do you think the main things are going to be that he's going to go through? Because it sounds like it'll be pretty grueling.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot harder than some of the others that I've done because, we're going to be in Thailand. It's humid. It's hot. You've got to deal with heat.
Yeah.
You've got to deal with just being in a third world country, especially when Pete's going to be in rural Thailand. You got Thailand traffic when we get through Bangkok in the city, which is just psycho in itself.
Yeah.
But out in rural, you don't have what you've got access here. There's no nice paths. There's no, running store down the road. There's no Woolworths, there's no Coles where you can go grab, some nice food and that. You've kind of just got to deal with what you've got. So not only is Pete running, a crazy amount each day, he's also dealing with heat and humidity and just not having that accessibility to what we take for granted here especially in Australia. He's going to go through a roller coaster on a day-to-day basis. There's going to be a lot of highs and then The next 5 minutes could be rock bottom lows. So for him, it's just really leaning back into like why is he doing this when he's in those hurt locker. But it's with these big events and in any running event in itself, it's those who become very good problem solvers have a great experience, and ultimately get to the finish line. So, with Pete, his background, I know he's a very good problem solver with leading teams. So we've spoken about this, but when an issue arrives, it's like, why am I in this, and how do I get out of this position? So, it might be he's vomiting, for example, which is going to be a high chance, and okay, well, why are we vomiting? Is it because of the heat, or is it because we had some food earlier on that caused us to vomit? So we're going to be taking a lot of notes on what he's eating and that sort of stuff. And then if he happens to vomit again, and we look back and it's the same type of food again, well, then we can start to go, okay, well, we've got to get rid of that food. It's not reacting in the body, and we can move forward. So yeah, for Pete, it's just going to become a very good problem solver. Is it because I'm dehydrated? Is it because, I'm tired? Is it because, I haven't had enough food? And then how do we, overcome that? So eat more food, maybe stop, get into the truck, have a bit of a nap, then get back out there. They're just trying to problem solve the whole time and finding a solution to keep moving forward.
And I'd imagine that's pretty hands-on sort of process for you too, as coach, communicating back and forward with him.
Yeah. So unfortunately, I won't be over there. It's just we'll be chatting WhatsApp with his team, with Pete. Yeah, just checking in. Pete's a pretty hard guy. He'll just keep trucking along. I'm pretty sure he won't say much. He won't say he's hurting. I think he'll just keep moving and get on with it.
I was saying this to CT the other day, Claire Baines' wife. I said it's going to take us actually having to prong him off the road to get him off there to just sort of forfeit this one, I think.
Yeah,
I definitely agree with you. Tough-minded guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's actually really interesting to hear. I've got a lot of questions around that, but I guess keeping it simple, is there a process to knowing good pain versus bad pain? Or is that just that day-to-day sort of metrics and measuring and checking in to ensure that?
Yeah, it's understanding what the pain is. Like, he'll have just general soreness. And I'm going to connect Pete with Alex Bell, who I believe is one of the best physios in Australia. He's Ned's physio, and we'll work on a telehealth kind of setup where if Pete is struggling with a mild injury, Alex can just jump on the phone, talk him through it. We can find a solution to get him moving forward, rather than waiting and just trying to run through it. So we're just trying to fix it as quickly as possible. And Alex is great. He understands what these challenges are like out on the road, and he can teach how to tape it up, fix it. Is that working? Yep. Okay, let's keep going. We just keep taping that way. So yeah, it's really important to have a strong network of a team around him that's going to be supporting him.
Yeah, it sounds good. There's a very good triage around him. He's got a nurse over there as well, which is good, and I guess that makes it easier by correspondence. Hey,
Yeah.
Great to know Alex is coming on board as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just asked before I came on here with you, Matty, I was asked by Anthony. He asked me a really good question. He asked me the hottest country I've ever been in, and I kind of didn't know where he was going with it. And I said, I grew up over in Mauritius, it's pretty hot. And he said, okay, now imagine you are 1,000 kilometers into your run and you're really struggling, you're in pain, you're in agony. And he's like, imagine Pete in that situation. You have a bike, you ride up to him, and you've only got a certain amount of time to say something to him to encourage him through that when he's like at his worst. He's in the pits. To put you on the spot here, what would you do if you're on that bike and you rode up to him? What sort of words of encouragement or what would you kind of do to help him?
Very good question. So kind of just went through that with Ned, and I had that opportunity like every 400 meters. I still never knew what to say, and it wasn't until recently I was out on a really big training run, and there's not much going through your head. You're hurting. You're pretty like blank. And I was thinking like, what would be like the best thing to be said to me right at this point of time? And you don't really take any of it on board. I found like if someone just said to me like, keep going, like I think they would just go straight through me. I kind of remember seeing Ned and he'd like have this devil, he'd just look through you. And I can just imagine how much pain he would have been in. Saying anything probably would have been pretty useless.
Yeah.
But I don't have the answer, to be honest. I don't know what to say. I'm probably not the best person to be in that position. But I know Alex Bell, who I was with, the physio, he was always like knew what to say, and he was the best person in that position to be able to help. This is not my forte. So it's probably an area I got to really like work on to know what to say. But I think, yeah, I don't have the answer, to be honest. I was trying to think really hard the other day about like what would I say when I'm in this hurt locker, and I think it's like maybe drawing it back to like, why are you doing this? He wants to be out there. He wants to do this, so it's on him. So maybe just kind of like push it, like maybe just leaning a bit more on that element and be like, Pete, like you decided to do this, you know why you wanted to do it. The option is either like you can maybe have that hard conversation, you know, like if you want to step off, or we can keep moving forward now, and you know we're just going to keep step by step getting closer and closer. So. Yeah, I don't know if there's like that hard element of just like pushing hard, and you probably have to find out how that person is at that point in time. But then, yeah, you might have to have like a softer approach. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
I think you answered that really well, Maddie, and I just really appreciate the honesty of it too, because I also, like, I was in your boat too when I was asked it. I was kind of stumped for a little bit there too. There's a real power in just being next to that person and just being present as well, and I'm sure that was a major role for you too, and just being present,
Yeah.
just being present with your athletes. But yeah, I think people do have that gift in the moment of knowing exactly what to say.
I think, yeah, like you said, is just knowing like the presence, like knowing that you're there in there with them is enough as well. Sometimes silence is probably the best thing. It's just like I'm here with you, mate. I'm in this with you. Let's just keep kind of driving forward. But yeah, you kind of have to feel out that timing as well, what that person's in and going through.
Yeah, definitely.
Tough one.
Definitely. Yeah, it'd be hard as a coach, I'm sure, to navigate through those highs and lows, and knowing where they're at, and how to support them through. But what about for the everyday person who's listening to this, the athletes who are listening to this? Are there any key lessons that you've learned through coaching and through being an athlete yourself to help people go through tough things, to encourage them?
Well, I always say like comparison is the thief of joy. And you know, people are doing harder, bigger, more crazier things right now, and sometimes you might not feel like, okay, well, what you're doing isn't, you know, and then that kind of takes it away from like your achievements. And for some people, like running 5K is like a huge achievement.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think like try not to compare yourself to what others are doing, and then just the biggest thing is setting goals. Like sharing that with people is going to keep you accountable to that goal. But once you have that goal, especially in the health space, whether that's weight loss, whether it's trying to improve strength, whether it's running, cycling, whatever that might be, when you have that goal, I believe you're going to make better choices. And those better choices are going to be, you're going to be training more, you're going to probably be eating better, you're most likely going to be drinking less alcohol, you're probably going to improve your sleep, and ultimately that's just going to help you become a better person to be around, a better person to, you know, at your work, to your partner, your kids, your family, and it just, you know, there's so much that comes out of just that one goal. So it's trying not to think about like you have to do something crazy, outlandish to you know, get those accolations. It's more so, okay, well, where am I at right now? Set that goal and try and challenge yourself towards it. And you know, sometimes you might fail. I've failed, you know, so many times. But it's okay. Well, that didn't work. Let's try something different. Let's do this. You know, many of races I've screwed up by just doing something stupid in the race, and it's just like, okay, well, I failed at that. That doesn't define who I am. Let's pick up the pieces and let's try to do something different. So, like a prime example is last year I did the Sydney Marathon, went out a little bit too hard, not a little, a lot too hard. It was a hot day and I didn't finish. So that was okay. Then I went back this year, did it again, and did my second best time in the marathons. People make mistakes. I made mistakes in races, but having a goal is just going to help you build towards something, and try and have something that's going to challenge you, but is in your lane.
I think it's so important to have the reminder of that. Comparing to other people really shifts that focus away from yourself and what you really do need to be focusing on too. But yeah, it's great to have your insight there and how that helps you too with your events and performance. I think, for a lot of people watching this could be very out of their depth. So I think you related that to people really well there. Yeah, doing like tough things. The other thing that you've spoken about a few times today is the why, and knowing the why and understanding like why you're actually doing these hard things. I can kind of relate that back in the sports psych world as your intrinsic motivation as opposed to, that extrinsic accolades and the results and outcomes and things like that. From your experience as a coach, how do you get those athletes really honing in on that intrinsic, like that why, if they're really kind of unclear on that? Because you said at the beginning that you go through that sort of interview process and try to understand that why from your athletes.
It's really interesting because I find after, like, say, a certain race that a client may have built up for, say, 3 months, we've built up to a race, it's all they've thought about, it's everything's been, like, driven to this one point. And when that race is gone, there's an empty space. And sometimes a client will try and fill that empty space with another race, just really quickly. And that race might be another 3-4 months out. And what generally happens is, this race that they first done meant something to them. There was a why they were doing it. And then this next race, there isn't that strong why. And when training starts to get tough and starts to get hard, and it's now winter and it's raining and it's dark outside at 6 a.m. and that willingness to get out of bed and do that is not as strong. So whenever a client finishes a race, I generally say, we can't pick a race for at least 4 weeks just till we get out of this little cycle, because I've just seen it time and time again where people will pick a race just to kind of feel like they have to pick a race. And then that why isn't strong enough. So I dig into it quite a bit. I always ask, like, why are you doing this? And I have monthly calls, just trying to like press that button a little bit, and I'll ask the question in different ways to see if I get the same answer, because they might just quickly have an answer just off the cuff ready to go. But then I might just try and pry that open a little bit more just to make sure that they are doing it for the right reasons, because I don't want to get a few weeks down the track and then that goal wasn't for them and they've kind of a bit of money and they've wasted time, and we've got to now restructure. So it's really important to dig into that, and I try and ask the question as many times as possible, different ways, what success looks like for them, all this sort of jazz. So we get the right answer, and then ultimately we get into some good training.
And is that kind of how you help them along when they're in the pain cave, or they're really in those ups and downs, and they're like what you said earlier, they did the times where they want to kind of make excuses or drop out and leave the event? Is that something?
Yeah, we'll lean back on that. I'll pull out my little notepad and be like, this is what you said. You wanted to do this. This is why you wanted to do it, and this is what success looked like for you. It's on you. And unless they're like medically in a bad position, I'll be like, okay, we've got to get off the road. But generally speaking, we can start to pry that up, especially for like these multi-day things. It's like, all right, we're 30 Ks in today, like we might have to call it quits, get refed, have an early night, get back out, better mental state. Or it's like, okay, but like just keep pushing on, like you're fine. Like we've just got to get out of this little funk you're in and keep moving. So it's like tough love that you've got to kind of have and kind of understand the whole circumstances to when to push and when not to push. Yeah.
It's a very good mix between that good coach, bad coach sort of thing.
Yeah.
bad being still good because it's the tough love and what they need to hear at that time. It's like having the devil and angel on each shoulder, but you kind of got to get that angel to scream a little bit louder sometimes, even if that means, you've audibly got to do that, or, having a coach in your ear too. But yeah, that sounds like a pivotal role that you've got there, like sort of understanding that and where those barriers are, and as well, like navigating them.
Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah, you push the possibilities, and I can really see that here. You do amazing things, and like I've got a lot out of talking to you today, and I'm sure anyone watching this would too. Just hear, I guess, more that nitty gritty process behind the scenes. There's so much that goes into it. In terms of following you along in your journey, like how do people find you? What's your best contact, or your sort of YouTube podcasts and things like that?
No YouTube, no podcasts. I just basically have Instagram. That's probably the best space. I'm semi-active on it. Matty Abel is what it is. That's probably the best place at the moment. Yeah, I really got to get better at doing something. My days are pretty full with coaching people. So yeah, that's probably the best space at the moment. Matty Abel on Instagram. And if you have any questions, reach out.
Thanks, Matty. It's very, very helpful having you on board as part of the support team for Peter and helping hands. Lastly, guys listening to this, Hands Across Water, if you want to know more about it, please jump on the Hands Across Water website. Check out Peter Baines on his Instagram to follow along his amazing journey, and we would really appreciate the support. And yeah, thanks again for coming on the Coach's Box.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
I'm sure we'll work pretty closely together in the coming weeks for sure. All the best with everything coming up, hey, and Kosciuszko.
Yeah,
Good luck.
thank you.
Have fun.
Should be good. Should be really good.